Another country video. So yeah, here we go with Italy. So yeah, starting off with history as usual. Yeah, the history of Italy kind of dates back to St. Millennium and all that. There's evidence of civilization has been found on like the Italian peninsula, dating back into like prehistory and all. As there's like rock drawings in the alpine regions of Lombardy that date to about 8000 BC. And there's like sizable settlements found in throughout the Copper Age, which is like 37th to 15th Copper Age, which was the 37th century to the 15th century BC, and then the Bronze Age, the 15th to the 8th century BC, and the Iron Age of 8th to the 5th century BC. And in northern Italy, the Etruscan culture took a hold around 8000 BC, while Greeks settled in southern Italy from about 700 to 600 BC, namely in Apulia, Calabria and Sicily, better known as Magna Graecia. Then the Roman Empire popped up about in the 5th century BC to the 5th century AD, and according to legend, Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus. Get to more on them later. In the heart of Etruscan Italy in 735 BC, and over the next several centuries Rome expanded its territories into what became known as the Roman Empire, and the Romans named the Italian peninsula Italia, and the Italian states north of Emilia Romagna were considered part of the Roman province of Gaul, and Italy kind of flourished under the Roman Empire, which ended in 476 AD with the death of Emperor Augustus, and the Italian peninsula was later divided into separate kingdoms and was only reunified again in 1861. But during in the 6th to the 14th century, it was known as the Middle Ages. And it begins with a series of invasions, and in 493 the Ostrogoths, an Eastern Germanic tribe, conquered the Italian peninsula, and it resulted in Gothic War, led to the Lombards, another Germanic tribe, establishing a kingdom in northern Italy and 3 regions in the south in 568. And subsequently the Popes began building an independent state in 756 when the French defeated the Lombards and granted the Popes authority over central Italy. The Papal States were created, and the northern states of Lombardy, Piedmont, Emilia-Romagna and Tuscany were ruled by the Germanic Holy Roman Empire from 962 AD, and by the end of the 11th century, the worst of the invasions were over, and trade began to flourish once again. And 4 Italian cities, Genoa, Pisa, Amalfi and Venice, became major commercial and political powers. And 12th century Italian cities ruled by the Holy Roman Empire campaigned for autonomy, and the result was that the northern Italy became a group of independent kingdoms, republics and city-states. And during the Renaissance of the 14th to the 16th century, the history of Italy, the disparity among the regions was extreme, and in contrast to the prosperous northern states, central and southern Italy were occasionally economically depressed. The papacy temporarily relocated to Avignon in France, returning to Rome in 1478. Naples, Sicily and Sardinia were controlled by foreign powers. Italian Renaissance was a cultural movement that began in Tuscany in the 14th century, spread into Florence and Siena. A number of factors contributed to its emergence, including the influx of Greek scholars following the second invasion of Constantinople by the Ottoman Turks in 1453, and the patronage of arts was afforded by the Medici family. Another contributing factor, and it gave rise to a number of artistic giants like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo Buonarroti, Sandro Botticelli, Dante Alighieri, and Francesco Petrarch, to name like a few of them. And the invention of the printing press, it was invented by Johannes Gutenberg in the 1440s, contributed to a free flow of information. And reaching southwards into Rome, the Renaissance inspired the Italian popes to rebuild the city, and Rome flourished once again. And the movements also spread to Milan, Venice, and further north into Europe, as it influenced arts, literature, philosophy, politics, science, religion, and other intellectual areas. And in Italy, the dominance of Tuscan culture led to the Tuscan dialect later becoming the official Italian language. Then there's the foreign rule of Italy from 1559 to 1814, as the Renaissance was a golden era of Italy and was followed by a dark one. And in 1494, France invaded northern Italy. Many of the Italian city-states collapsed, and in 1529, Spain and Germany attacked Rome. And by the end of the Italian Wars in 1559, 3 Italian republics regained their independence as Piedmont, Savoy, Corsica, Genoa, and Venice. Both Savoy and Corsica were later sold to France. Corsica in 1764 and Savoy in 1860. By 1559, Spain was controlled by Milan. Spain controlled Milan, Sicily, Sardinia, and southern Tuscany, and dominated the rules of Tuscany, Genoa, and other smaller city-states of northern Italy. And the Spanish control of Italy lasted until 1713. And during the era of domination of Habsburg Spain from 1559 to 1713, and Habsburg Austria from 1713 to 1797, Italians enjoyed a long period of relative peace, but during the Napoleonic era of 1796 and to 1714, Italy was briefly united by Napoleon as an Italian republic and later Kingdom of Italy, becoming a client state of the French Republic. After the defeat of Napoleonic France in 1814, Congress had divided Italy into 8 parts under foreign rule. Parma, Modena, Tuscany were ruled by the Habsburgs. Lombardy and Venetia, ruled by Austria. Piedmont, Sardinia, Genoa, and the Papal States were independent. And Naples and Sicily were ruled by France. And the condition of the abysmal conditions was the impetus behind the Italian unification movement. As unification kind of started in 1814 and lasted until it was unified in 1861. As the Risorgimento was a complex process that eventually unified the different states of the Italian peninsula into the modern nation of Italy, and the movement began in Okay. No thanks. The movement began in 1815 with a growing resentment towards the peninsula's domination by Austria, and the two predominant figures in the unification movement were Giuseppe Mazzini and Giuseppe Garibaldi. I do it really in a living room. A native to Genoa, Mazzini was imprisoned in 1830 for his role in the Carbonari secret society, and from his exile in France and later England, he mounted a series of unsuccessful uprisings in Italy, but eventually worked with Garibaldi to achieve a dream of unification, and his funeral in 1872 attracted about 100,000 people. As Giuseppe Garibaldi was born in Nice, known as Nisa, and like Mazzini, as a member of the Carbonari secret society, he fled Italy in 1834 after a failed insurrection, but returned in 1854 to continue the campaign. And Italy was officially reunified in 1861, with Rome and Latium annexed in 1870, and the Trieste region after World War I. And since unification, Italy has expanded a tumultuous period that saw a mass exodus of people and the disastrous consequences of two world wars. And yet over the past 60 years, the country has reclaimed its position as a major social and cultural player in world affairs, as Italian goods and services have a really good international reputation, and Italy remains one of the most popular tourist destinations in Europe. And Italy was one of the founding members of the European Economic Community. And despite the turbulent nature of Italian politics, it still enjoys positive economic growth and a high standard of living. As the richness of its past and the live life to the fullest attitude of its present combine to make Italy a tourist destination. So yeah, moving on to language. As Italian, or Italiano if you speak it in Italian, is a Romance language currently spoken by about 66 million people, most of whom live in the Italian peninsula, including the Republic of San Marino. France, including Corsica, has around 260,000 speakers, and Switzerland has more than 500,000 in the canton of Ticino, and for a large of its decreasing proportion of the speakers, standard Italian is not the language of the home where dialectal forms are used. As Italian is spoken overseas, like in the USA, where it's estimated that about 1.5 million Italian speakers. There's also Brazil, which has 700,000 speakers, and Argentina, which has about 600,000. Speakers sometimes do not know the standard language and use only the dialect forms. Standard Italian is widely used in countries like Malta and Somalia, and a Pidgin Italian can still be heard in Addis Ababa, which is the capital of Ethiopia, but has little extension. And in Libya is now dying out, and relics of a Jewish Italian, known as Italician, survives within Italy. And the Italian colony of 6,000 Corfu Jews, he used the Venetian dialects as a home language, was essentially gone during World War II. And there's no points in how they kind of died, considering Italy was allied with Germany's Adolf Hitler. And it's because the Italian dialects developed from Vulgar Latin, the colloquial language of the late Roman Empire, with early texts reflecting on the spoken language of Italy, and are written dialects. Possibly the very first text of the riddle from Verona, dating from perhaps the 8th century, but its interpretation is obscure and its language Latinized. And more surely, like some Italian 10th century documents from Monte Cassino, after which there are 3 Central Italian texts from the 11th century. The first literary work of any length is the Tuscan Ritmo Lorenziano, which translates into Laurentian rhythm, of the late 12th century, followed soon by other compositions from the Marches and Monte Cassino. In the 13th century, lyric poetry was first written in a conventionalized Sicilian dialect, but influenced later developments in central Italy. Standard Italian began to be developed in the 13th and 14th century as a literary dialect, as first basically was a Florentine dialect stripped of local peculiarity, since it acquired some characteristics of the dialect of Rome in particular, and has always been heavily influenced by Latin. It overlies a wide variety of dialects, which are sometimes considered to represent the fundamental differentiation between northern and southern Italy that dates back as far as the Romans. But today, the variants of dialects form a continuum of intelligibility, although geographically distant dialects may be radically different from each other, as the northern dialects include what are often called the Gallo-Italian dialects, like Piedmontese, Lombard, Ligurian, and Emilian Romagnol, and the elephant has the influence of Celtic or Gaulish. Subterranean is discernible, and some linguists consider them separate languages pertaining to the Gallo-Romance subgroup, while other northern group of dialects spoken in northeastern Italy. In the Venetian, including Venetian, Veronese, Trevisian, and Paduan dialects, and all that. Istrian, which is spoken in the peninsula, now divided between Croatia and Slovenia, which a tiny portion belong to Italy, and is sometimes considered yet another northern dialect or an independent language of the Balkano-Romance subgroup. And Tuscan dialects, including those of Corsica, are often held to form a linguistic group of them, while in the south and east, freeboard dialects are area groups loosely together. There's a dialects of a marsh, or Marsh Ingio, there's Umbria and Rome, there's Abruzzian, Neapolitan, Campanian, and Lucian, and Calabrian, Austrian, and Sicilian, which are believed by some to be influenced by Greek, which was once spoken there, and still survives in isolated pockets in the extreme southern portion of the peninsula. And in modern Italian dialects are still primarily spoken idiom. The standard Italian is virtually the only written language, and speakers of the Italian dialects, even one as superficially can contact me by email. Superficially different as Sicilian, can with effort understand standard Italian, however can learn it by such means as listening to radio programs. And for most Italians, their first contacts with standard Italian comes in primary school, in which until recently was the only dialect used, as standard Italian is virtually the only dialect of the culture in modern Italy. And with immigration from the south to the industrial north, it becomes increasingly the language of intercommunication. So yeah, that is the English language for you. Not the English language, Italian language. It's that time where everything just goes kapoof. Then moving on to legends and all, it's like there's like a lot that's coming from like the mythology of Greece and all that. As the Roman gods and goddesses are basically just renamed from the Greek gods and goddesses. And then it's like in the first of them, and there's like quite a lot in the first of them. Like I mentioned, those that I mentioned before, that two men I said before, called Romulus and Remus. As a bit like Italian legends would not be complete without them, as were the founders of Rome. As Romulus and Remus are twin brothers who were either followed by the Roman god Mars. He was basically the Greek god of war, Ares, or Hercules, who was of course a Greek hero. And their mother Rhea had beforehand been condemned to become a bestial virgin by her father's brother. Now, was quite a scandal, as a bestial virgin you're supposed to not refrain from having sex for like the 30 years that you're supposed to live there. But the twins were abandoned and taken to the river by an evil guy named Amulius. But fortunately, a female wolf had found them and nursed them, and a woodpecker brought them food, and later on they were taken care of by a farmer couple. Once they had grown up, they had learned about the true heritage and decided that this was all wrong, and managed to kill Amulius, and the mother's father was allowed to return to his throne, and Romulus and Remus then founded their own new city, today known as Rome, and statues of a she-wolf nursing two twins can be found in various places in Rome. And then there's the Befana, and he was like a witch of some sort, but a good one, and that turns up during the night of the 6th of January, and some say she might live with another famous guy we all know called Santa, of course. And others say she's some sort of spinster, and the church, of course, was not pleased with the myth and came up with her own explanation that shows the spawn of the devil. And Betha knows which children have been good, and receive presents during the night she appears. And the kids that have not been good are sent a piece of charcoal as a present. Then there's Lupo Manaro, which is Italian stories about werewolves, long before they became popular in modern days, as werewolves were mentioned in old texts, either described as men who were able to change their skins, or as wolves who behaved like men. And so people weren't really sure whether they were originally a man or originally a woman. Not a woman, a man or an animal. Now, although what was known as a werewolf could be both, as the transformation always took place during nights, and various remedies were described, and was said that a werewolf could be treated, if he had not yet fully turned. Then there's also the Dahu. As a Dahu is sometimes something you can only find in northern Italy, like in the Swiss and the French. Also speak of the Dahu. Most likely because the Dahu is a creature usually found in the Alps. As a Dahu is described as some sort of goat, however it has legs of a different length. Two legs that face away from the mountain are usually longer than the ones closest to the mountain. So the Dahu can always walk along the mountains, and of course it can only walk in one direction, otherwise it would have huge problems with the different legs. And male and female versions are said to walk around the mountains in opposite directions, and that they are mirror copies of the other gender, otherwise they would have never be able to find each other. And if you found the goats, then Dahus are even stranger creatures, and so far none of them have been caught. Then there's a Lariosaurus, which is the Italian version of the Loch Ness Monster, that lives in Lake Como. As it is a creature that is supposed to live in the waters of the lake, but like its Scottish cousin, nobody has ever found like substantial verifiable proof of Lorisaurus' existence, and some suspect that someone with a wild imagination had simply seen a big eel. And then finally there's the Milochio, which is a kind of like an evil eye. And even in like modern Italy, people do still believe in the power of the curse, and sometimes it goes so far that they do not tell others of good news or important exams because they worry that sometimes might cast the Malachio on them, and said to beware. They said that wearing red, if it's like just underwear and all that, will have ward off such bad luck that the Malachio gives them. So yeah, and that is essentially Italy for you. And yeah, I'll see you all very soon with the news. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more like it. So yeah, bye bye.